You've probably never heard of Andorra. It's one of the smallest countries on Earth. A peaceful mountain nation tucked high in the Pyrenees, between France and Spain. Only about 80,000 people live here, scattered through narrow valleys carved by rivers and time. No airport, no coastline, just winding roads, ancient stone villages, and peaks that stay dusted with snow even in summer. A country small enough to cross in less than an hour, but large enough to hold entire worlds of silence. You're listening to Sleep Around the World, where every night we drift into a new country until we've traveled through them all. Before we begin tonight's journey, take a slow breath. If you enjoy these quiet explorations, please like this video and subscribe so you don't miss the next destination. Tell us in the comments where in the world you're listening from and what time it is right now. It's always fascinating to see how far these stories reach while the rest of the planet sleeps. Now, close your eyes. Feel the mountain air on your skin. Thin, cold, and clean. Snow glimmers on the ridges above, and the road ahead winds upward into cloud. Welcome to Andorra, the hidden kingdom of snow and silence. The road to Andorra curls through the Pyrenees, a ribbon of asphalt suspended between stone and sky. Snow glitters along the shoulders of the cliffs. Pine trees rise like green fire, their tips brushed white. The air tastes cold enough to ring inside your lungs. You can hear the crunch of frost beneath the tires, the faint hum of wind running its fingers along the guardrails. We cross a small bridge where the border hides in plain sight. A single sign, nothing more. And suddenly we are inside Andorra, a country that seems to exist purely for the peace of being small. We stop at a viewpoint where the world opens like a book. Valleys fold below us, stitched together by rivers that gleam like threads of glass. The light here feels closer, sharper, as if the sun itself is still new. Far below, tiny villages rest against the slopes. Gray stone, brown roofs, thin trails of smoke curling into blue air. You close your eyes for a moment and listen. Silence in the mountains isn't empty. It's layered. Wind over snow, snow over stone, stone over memory. The sound of time breathing. The car winds downward toward Andorra la Vella, the capital. The road narrows, twisting like a thought you can almost finish. Icicles hang from cliff edges, catching light and shattering it into color. A waterfall tumbles beside us, half frozen, half alive. When we reach the valley floor, the snow softens into slush. The air smells faintly of wood smoke and pine resin. We park near the river that runs through the city, its surface glazed with thin ice that cracks softly under drifting snow. Andorra la Vella feels both ancient and modern at once. Stone churches stand beside glass storefronts. Cobblestone lanes lead into wide plazas lined with cafes. People move quietly here, their voices blending into the sound of water and bells. The mountains rise behind every building like patient guardians. You walk along the riverbank, hands tucked into your coat, watching steam rise from the chimneys. Somewhere a clock strikes noon. Its echo rolls up the slopes and fades into the clouds. We stop for tea in a small cafe built of grey stone. The windows fog quickly. The world outside becomes a watercolor of white and silver. The waiter brings mugs of hot chocolate, so thick the spoon stands upright. You take a sip. Dark, sweet, impossibly rich, and feel the warmth move through you like sunlight under the skin. Around us, locals talk softly in Catalan. Laughter flickers now and then like sparks from a fireplace. The place feels safe, content to stay unnoticed by the noise of larger nations. Outside again, snow begins to fall. Large flakes, lazy and unhurried. They drift through the air like feathers shaken from the sky. We walk uphill through narrow streets, where iron balconies wear coats of white. A church bell rings from the top of a stone tower. The sound bounces between the mountains and returns softer each time. Like a lullaby, the land sings to itself. You tilt your face upward, and a snowflake melts against your cheek. It feels like the world saying hello. We reach a lookout terrace where the city ends and the wilderness begins. Below, Andorra la Vella glows under a sheet of snow, lights flickering between falling flakes. Above, the peaks disappear into cloud. For a moment, it's hard to tell where the earth ends and the sky begins. The mountains breathe mist. The city exhales light. You realize that the whole country fits inside your field of vision, and somehow that makes it feel infinite. Night will come early here. The cold deepens, turning breath to silver. We head toward a small inn built beside the river. The door opens with a of warm air and the scent of bread baking. A woman greets us with a nod and gestures toward the fire. You sit, boots thawing, fingers wrapped around another cup of chocolate. Outside, snow keeps falling, steady and soundless. The window pane glows with firelight, and the reflection shows a traveler who has finally stopped moving. For now, that's enough. The day is folded neatly behind us. The night waits like a blanket. Tomorrow we'll explore the valleys and villages. But tonight, Andorra keeps us still, held in its small hands, safe between mountains older than memory. You take one last slow breath, and let the quiet fill every space inside you. The wind outside hums low, steady, eternal. Dawn returns in silence. The fire in the inn has burned to embers, glowing faintly beneath a layer of ash. Outside, the snow has stopped. The world looks freshly built, as if it was remade while everyone slept. You step out onto the street and breathe the kind of air that feels new enough to taste. It smells of pine and chimney smoke, clean and sharp. Somewhere above, the mountains are blushing pink beneath the first light of morning. Bells from the church ring once, twice, to tell the valley the day has begun. The streets of Andorra la Vella are almost empty. Shopkeepers sweep snow from doorways. The sound of bristles against stone is soft and steady. Steam curls from the drains where warm water meets cold air. The river that runs through the city moves beneath a skin of ice, whispering beneath its breath. You follow its sound past shuttered windows and lampposts still wearing halos of frost. Each step, a rhythm that keeps time with the heart. You stop at a small bridge and lean over the rail. The water below is the color of glass polished by light. It breaks around stones in perfect silence. Across the river, a bakery opens its doors. The smell drifts over. Butter, yeast, and something faintly sweet. You cross, following it. Inside, warmth wraps around you instantly. The baker nods, sliding a tray of pastries from the oven. You choose one filled with local cheese and honey. It melts the moment it touches your tongue. Every flavor tastes like comfort made visible. The city begins to wake. People greet each other in low voices, laughing like sparks in cold air. Children run ahead of their parents, kicking up snow that glitters like confetti. The shops open slowly. Wooden doors, signs swinging gently in the wind. You wander without hurry, turning corners just to see what waits beyond. A bookstore, a tiny cafe, a street that ends in sunlight. Each discovery feels deliberate, as though the city has decided to show itself one heartbeat at a time. We stop at a terrace overlooking the valley. The roofs below smoke gently, trails rising straight up before dissolving. The snow on the mountains catches the light, blindingly white at the peaks, silver where shadow touches. Somewhere a dog barks, the sound crisp and far away. You close your eyes. The warmth of the chocolate you drank last night still lingers in memory. The breeze brushes your face like a hand, reminding you that morning is real. By midday, the sun has climbed high enough to soften the chill. Snow slides from the rooftops in slow sheets, falling with muffled sighs. The sound is strangely soothing, like a metronome for the mountains themselves. A man on a bicycle pedals past, balancing a basket of bread. The scent trails behind him for a moment before vanishing. The city is neither busy nor still. It simply moves, breathing at its own pace, unhurried by the world beyond its borders. We wander uphill toward the old quarter, where stone houses lean close together. Wooden balconies overflow with geraniums, red against the pale walls. The street narrows until it feels like a secret. You reach out and brush your hand along the wall. The stones are warm from the sun. Somewhere above, wind chimes tinkle lazily. A cat stretches in a doorway, yawning as if it too has nowhere urgent to be. You smile. There's a peace here that doesn't need to explain itself. When you step back into daylight, the snow has started again. Tiny flakes drifting sideways in a gentle wind. They land on your coat and vanish instantly. The sound of footsteps disappears beneath them. The sky turns a soft gray, bright but muted, like the pause between thoughts. You breathe out and watch your breath join the snowfall, each exhale dissolving into quiet. Somewhere nearby, a violin begins to play, one long note stretching toward forever. The music fades as quickly as it came. The street bends downhill, leading back to the river. Lights begin to glow in the windows, reflections trembling on the surface of the water. Evening is still hours away, but Andorra is already preparing for calm. You follow the river once more, its steady murmur guiding you like a gentle voice. Every sound, every motion seems to say the same thing. Stay a little longer. The road north from Andorra la Vella climbs in slow spirals. Snow drifts between the pines, the air crisp enough to hum against your skin. Each turn reveals another view of the valley below, roofs clustered like islands in a sea of white. You roll the window down and let the cold in. It smells of cedar and distant smoke. A river threads beside the road, glittering between stones like a vein of glass. You can hear it, even when you can't see it. The steady, gentle voice of water remembering its path.
The first village we reach is Ordino, a place of slate rooftops and quiet courtyards. Its streets are narrow, lined with stone houses that look as though they were grown rather than built. A dog trots ahead, leaving a line of paw prints that vanish in the wind. The bells of the small church ring out once, echoing across the valley. It feels less like sound and more like memory coming home. You walk beneath a balcony heavy with icicles, watching them drip in slow rhythm to the music of thawing snow. In the center of the village, an elderly man tends a small fire outside his shop. He waves as we approach, offering roasted chestnuts in paper cones. The shells crack softly under your fingers. The smoke smells like warmth itself. He tells us the village has fewer than 500 people now, though it once had more sheep than residents. You laugh and he smiles, shrugging, as if to say that silence makes fine company. You eat another chestnut and agree. Farther up the valley, a stone bridge arches over the river. It's old, Roman perhaps, its surface polished smooth by centuries of footsteps. Snow clings to the edges, leaving a thin white border that glows in the soft light. We stop at the center, watching the water rush below. You lean on the stone rail and listen. The sound is clear and constant, a lullaby written by the earth. Downstream, the river curls out of sight, carrying the day toward other valleys and other stories. We follow a footpath that winds between farms. Sheep graze near fences half buried in snow. Their wool gleams golden against the white. Somewhere a shepherd calls, his voice blending with the wind. You watch the animals move in small circles, their rhythm hypnotic. Each breath forms clouds in the cold air. The hills rise around us like folded paper, gentle but immense. You realize there's no sound of machines, no echo of engines, only life at its simplest. Wind, wool, footsteps, time. By midday, the sky clears to blue so deep it feels endless. We stop in Canillo, a village built along a narrow curve of the valley. Icicles hang from the eaves of every house, each one catching the light like a crystal chime. The scent of bread and wood smoke fills the air. In the square, a fountain trickles quietly beneath a coat of ice, refusing to freeze entirely. You cup your hands around the water and feel how impossibly cold it is, pure enough to taste the mountain in it. A woman selling wool hats smiles as we pass. Her stall is bright with color. Reds, greens, yellows, each one a tiny fire against the snow. She tells us that every pattern means something. Families, seasons, rivers, dreams. You pick one at random, but she shakes her head. This one, she says, choosing another. It's for travelers. She ties it loosely under your chin. The wool is soft, almost warm already. You thank her, and she laughs. Now the mountains will know you.
The road climbs again until the villages shrink behind us. Forest takes over. Tall pines dusted white, their branches whispering secrets to the wind. We stop by a clearing where a wooden bridge crosses a frozen stream. The ice beneath it glows pale turquoise, smooth as glass. You kneel and touch it with one gloved hand. It hums faintly, the sound of trapped air moving beneath the surface. Even the frozen water here seems alive, dreaming slowly beneath the cold. As the afternoon fades, the shadows grow long and blue. Smoke begins to rise from chimneys again, marking each house like a star returning to the sky. We drive back down toward Ordino, headlights brushing across stone walls and snowbanks. The valley fills with golden light from windows and lanterns. People move indoors. The world folds itself around them like a blanket. You realize the mountains are not walls, but hands, holding everything gently in their palms. Night begins its slow descent. The first star appears above the ridge, bright and sure. The road hums softly under the tires, steady as a heartbeat. We say little. There's nothing left to explain. Andorra has given us its quiet, and we carry it now. A calm that feels stitched into our breath. The wind picks up, snowflakes swirling in the headlights, and for a moment it looks like the sky is falling just to remind us how beautiful stillness can be. Morning in the mountains begins with silence. No traffic, no bells. Just the soft rustle of wind combing through pine branches. Frost glitters on the grass like scattered stars. The air smells of cold water and stone. We set out along a trail that climbs through the forest, our boots crunching rhythmically in the snow. Sunlight filters through the trees in long golden threads. Each breath feels sharper, cleaner, almost sweet. The world up here moves slower, as if the mountain itself is listening. The path twists upward beside a stream. The water runs fast, tumbling over rocks, clear enough to see pebbles shining beneath the surface. You pause and cup your hands to drink. It's icy, pure enough to sting your teeth. For a moment, the cold pulls every thought from your head, until only the sound of running water remains. A bird calls somewhere above,
its voice thin and bright. The echo travels far, bouncing between ridges before fading. You stand still, until the silence closes again, smooth as glass. Farther on, the trees thin. The valley opens into a plateau, dusted with snow and wild grass. In the distance, peaks rise like teeth against the sky. Clouds drag slow shadows across their slopes. We follow the trail until we reach a small alpine lake. The surface is frozen, except for a circle of melted water near the center, where sunlight catches and flashes like a single eye waking. You kneel at the edge and watch the wind push ripples beneath the ice. Tiny movements, invisible unless you're patient enough to notice. A wooden sign marks the lake's name, Estany de la Neu. Someone has carved initials into it long ago. The groove's filled now with frost. You trace the letters with a gloved hand and imagine the hikers who came before, resting in this same quiet. The wind carries the faint scent of pine resin and snowmelt. Overhead, a hawk turns in slow circles, wings outstretched. Its cry pierces the air once, sharp and clean, then falls back into silence. Even that sound feels like part of the stillness. We climb higher along a ridge. The trail narrows, bordered by cliffs that drop into mist. To the west, sunlight pours over the peaks like liquid gold. The snow there looks untouched, sculpted only by wind. You stop to breathe and realize you can hear your own heartbeat. Not loud, just steady, like the mountain is echoing it back. The horizon stretches in every direction. France on one side, Spain on the other, and between them, this small, perfect country, built of light and stone. Near the summit, we find a wooden shelter, half buried in snow. Its door creaks open to reveal a small stove, a bench, and a window facing the valley. We sit inside, lighting the stove until it crackles softly. Heat spreads through the room, slow and steady. You take off your gloves, rub your hands together, and watch your breath dissolve in the warm air. Outside, the snow keeps falling in flakes so large and lazy, they seem to float forever before landing. Each one vanishes the instant it touches the glass. Hours pass without meaning. The light shifts from gold to white to blue. Shadows lengthen and bend across the floor. We eat a simple lunch. Bread, cheese, slices of apple, and listen to the stove's low hum. The fire speaks in whispers. Crack. Sigh. Pause. You lean against the wall, eyes half closed, and imagine the snow piling higher against the door, building a cocoon around us. For the first time in a long while, the world outside feels distant, harmless, and still. When we step back out, the storm has stopped. The air is crystalline, every edge sharpened by cold. The peaks rise impossibly clear, their slopes glowing pink under the setting sun. The snow beneath our boots, each step crisp and exact. You reach out and catch a flake on your glove. It melts instantly, leaving a single drop that reflects the entire sky. For a heartbeat, it's as if the world has condensed into that one shimmering bead of water. As evening falls, mist gathers in the valleys, rolling like soft smoke. The last light slides across the mountain tops and disappears. Far below, you can see the villages flicker to life. Tiny constellations mirroring the stars above. The cold deepens, but it's gentle, almost kind. You pull your scarf tighter and watch the first stars appear. They seem brighter here, close enough to brush the peaks. The air itself glows faintly with their reflection. We start down the trail toward the valley, our lanterns casting long, golden arcs across the snow. Each step brings a new sound. The crunch of ice, the sigh of wind, the whisper of distant water. The mountains fade behind us, but their calm remains. By the time we reach the tree line, the world is silent again, except for our breath and the slow creak of branches overhead. You glance back once more and see nothing but starlight. It feels like the mountains have tucked us safely into their dreams. Evening returns slowly, like breath after a long climb. The cold deepens, wrapping the valleys in a blue hush. Lights appear in the distance, scattered across the mountainsides like stars that have fallen to earth. We follow the road toward them, headlights gliding over snowdrifts and stone walls. The air smells faintly of pine smoke and wood ash. A ribbon of light glows ahead. The village market, alive beneath strings of lanterns, swaying in the wind. The square is small but bright. Stalls line the edges, their canopies dusted with snow. People move slowly between them, bundled in scarves and laughter. You hear the clink of coins, the rustle of paper bags, the low hum of friendly voices. The scent of roasted chestnuts and mulled wine fills the air. Someone plays a soft melody on an accordion. The notes drift upward, curling into the night like smoke. The sound feels both festive and peaceful, a heartbeat echoing through the cold. We stop at a stall selling local cheese. Wheels of pale gold sit stacked like suns caught in the light. The vendor cuts a thin slice and offers it to you on a wooden board. It tastes sharp and buttery, melting slowly. He tells us it's made from goat's milk collected high in the Pyrenees, aged through 2 winters. You nod, savoring it. Each bite seems to carry the echo of mountain wind and stone. Food here isn't just eaten, it's remembered. Next, a woman ladles steaming soup into earthen bowls. She smiles as she serves it. A mixture of lentils, potatoes, and herbs. You wrap your hands around the bowl and feel the warmth spread through your gloves. The first spoonful is thick and hearty, grounding you in the present moment. Around you, people chat softly in Catalan and French, their words blending into a warm rhythm. Even strangers speak like neighbors here, voices softened by snow. In one corner of the market, a baker sells fresh coques de Andorra, round pastries glazed with honey. He sets one on a napkin for you. It's still warm, sugar crust crackling under your fingers. The taste is sweet, earthy,
faintly spiced with cinnamon. It lingers, a quiet echo of childhood winters. You watch the baker work, his hands moving in practiced circles, shaping dough into memory. The smell alone could make a heart rest. As we wander, the snow begins again, small flakes swirling in the lamplight. They settle on coats, on hats, on the rooftops of stalls. No one rushes to leave. The snow only makes everything softer, quieter. The accordion player switches to a slower tune, almost like a lullaby. A child dances in the snow, her boots leaving perfect circles in the slush. You can't help but smile. The whole village seems to breathe in unison, exhaling warmth into the cold. When the market begins to close, we walk toward a small restaurant tucked beside the square. Inside, the fire roars in a stone hearth. The air smells of garlic and thyme. A man in a wool sweater greets us and shows us to a wooden table near the flames. He brings a carafe of red wine and a plate of cured meats and cheese. You sip slowly. The wine is deep and dark, the kind that tastes like conversation. The fire crackles, painting the room in shades of amber. Dinner arrives. Roasted lamb with rosemary, potatoes crisped in olive oil, bread baked so fresh it steams when torn. You eat slowly, savoring every flavor, every pause. Outside, the snow thickens, pressing its silence against the windows. The man returns with dessert, a small dish of flan, golden and trembling. You take a bite. Sweetness spreads across your tongue like sunlight melting snow. It's the taste of endings done right. After dinner, we step outside. The village is quiet now. The market empty, but still glowing with a few leftover lanterns. The air hums with the aftertaste of music and laughter. Snow muffles everything. Footsteps, wind, time. You walk to the edge of the square and look up. The sky is a deep indigo, full of stars too bright to count. Your breath fogs in front of you, and for a moment it feels like you're exhaling pieces of the sky itself. The inn isn't far. Its windows glow warmly against the night. You open the door to a rush of heat and the scent of pine. The woman at the counter smiles in recognition. Upstairs, your room overlooks the valley, where distant lights shimmer like fallen constellations. You slip beneath a thick wool blanket. The last sound you hear, the faint crackle of a fireplace downstairs. The mountains outside are dark and kind. You close your eyes and drift. Night settles softly over the valley. The storm has passed, leaving the air clean and still. The rooftops shimmer under a thin crust of snow that glows silver in the moonlight. From your window, the world looks perfectly still, perfectly quiet. A painting painted by silence itself. You can see the river gliding through the center of the village, half frozen, half moving, whispering beneath its breath. It feels as though even time has stopped to listen. You pull on a coat and step outside. The snow creaks beneath your boots, soft and familiar now. The village lies asleep, its windows dim, its doors closed against the cold. A lantern swings gently from a post, its flame a small golden star in the darkness. You follow the narrow path down to the edge of the river. The water reflects the moon in fractured pieces, broken but beautiful, like light remembering how to rest. You kneel beside it and listen. The sound is small, patient, eternal. Beyond the village, the land opens into a meadow bordered by pine trees. The snow there is untouched, unmarked, endless. You walk into it slowly, each step a whisper. The air grows colder, the stars sharper. Above you, the Milky Way stretches from ridge to ridge, a white river flowing across the sky. You tilt your head back and breathe in the cold. It feels like drinking starlight. The silence here is so complete it becomes music. You can feel it vibrating gently inside your chest. Far off, a bell rings, a single note from a chapel hidden in the snow. The sound travels easily through the thin mountain air, clear and weightless. It fades, leaving only your heartbeat in its place. The wind stirs, carrying the scent of pine and distant smoke. You close your eyes. The mountains rise behind your eyelids, vast and ancient. You can feel their patience, their stillness, their endless watching. They ask nothing of you except to rest. You lie down on the snow. It's soft, surprisingly warm beneath the first chill. The world above you seems infinite, stars trembling with quiet energy. Your breath drifts upward in slow clouds, joining the night. You imagine it freezing into tiny sparks and adding itself to the constellation above. Every exhale feels lighter, every thought more distant. The ground beneath you hums faintly, a vibration of earth turning, steady and kind. You realize you've become part of the landscape. Somewhere in the trees, an owl calls. Once, then again. Its voice is low, unhurried, full of wisdom older than language. The snow absorbs the echo until it sounds like the earth speaking to itself. The stars wheel overhead in slow circles, tracing invisible paths across the sky. Time slides gently forward, so quietly you don't notice. The body softens, the mind drifts, and the border between the two dissolves into calm. Every muscle knows what to do. It remembers rest. If you wake before dawn, the world will still be waiting. The same mountains, the same river, the same peace. The snow will have deepened a little. The air will smell faintly of frost and firewood. The people of Andorra will stir soon, lighting their stoves, sweeping their doorsteps, carrying on quietly beneath the sky. You can return to them anytime. Just close your eyes and listen.
The road through the Pyrenees is always there, winding softly back into dream.
If you wake before dawn, the world will still be waiting. The same mountains, the same river, the same peace. The snow will have deepened a little. The air will smell faintly of frost and firewood. Soon the people of Andorra will stir, lighting their stoves, sweeping their doorsteps, carrying on quietly beneath the pale sky. You can return here anytime. Just close your eyes and listen, and the Pyrenees will rise again around you. But when morning comes, a new horizon will be calling. Our next journey takes us south, across seas and forests, to Angola, where red earth meets the Atlantic, and the air hums with drums and rain. So rest now, traveler. Sleep deeply. Dream softly. And come back tomorrow night as we continue our voyage through every country in the world. You are always welcome on this path, wherever you may be listening from.